Hi, I'm Stephanie. I donated a kidney to my friend's husband, who I didn't actually know at the time, just about 6 months ago. So my recipient's name is Dan, and he was actually the husband of a very good friend of mine from high school, but was someone who I hadn't really seen since high school. So it'd been about 20 years, and we were Facebook friends, but hadn't really seen her, had never met Dan until I saw a Facebook post Katie did talking about how her husband had had polycystic kidney disease and was added to the transplant list and was looking for a kidney. So didn't actually meet him until the day before my final full day of testing. He's a great human being, my age, and just a remarkable guy, and is doing super well now that we're about 6 months out. So I really didn't think much about kidney disease at all until probably 6 or 7 years ago. I had a friend from my Rotary Club who decided to be a living kidney donor to someone that he didn't know either. So it kind of put it in my head at that point, and then it kind of goes into your brain and goes away for a while. Then I had a friend whose father needed a kidney, and actually a friend whose daughter needed a kidney just a couple of years ago. So it started coming up more regularly and started kind of kicking around in my brain that maybe it would be something that I could do for someone as well. When I learned what kidney failure really meant for Dan, it just completely floored me. I had no idea. He seemed, by all accounts, to be relatively healthy. I think he takes pretty good care of himself, obviously, and was at 14% function on the day we donated, so 10% is dialysis. So really incredible, and didn't even really know until we got into the surgery process what his diet looked like and his energy level looked like, and certainly what life would look like for him if he were to go on to dialysis. So it was just an incredibly overwhelming thing for me, someone who's healthy and active and almost takes good health for granted. It's something I certainly am not going to do anymore. When I learned about kidney disease and treatment options, but particularly donation, I was really surprised just with how many people are in need. I was flabbergasted, frankly, that so many people were in need, that the process could be so long, and really didn't even know that living donation was a thing. So I was very surprised to hear about that and to hear really how easy it would be on my end, and how obviously beneficial it would be on his as well, and also just how much better kidney transplants tend to go when it is a living donor versus a deceased donor. I had no idea about any of that. So I ultimately decided to donate a kidney to Dan. Really, it was just something I felt called to do, and I feel like I've been very blessed to have good health and have something that I really, frankly, took for granted. Just have that extra kidney, don't need it. And when I learned really just how impactful it would be for him, but also really just kind of minimally impactful to me, there was nothing else to do but donate. Absolutely, it has been without question the best decision I've ever made of my life. I would do it again. I wish I could give the other one. It's just been really tremendous, and seeing my recipient go from 14% function on the day of surgery to now I believe it's 84% function is just it's indescribable, and we got to our 2-week checkup, and he let me sit in on the sonogram, and getting to see your kidney pumping and doing all the work in somebody else's body is just maybe the coolest thing in the world. So it absolutely was it's just been remarkable. So when I first told my husband that I was thinking about donating a kidney, of course he was very surprised. We didn't know Dan. It hadn't been something that I had really talked about much before, and of course he was worried what the impact would be on me, what the long-term consequences of that would be, what my regular activity would be like, if I could still drink wine. Just kind of runs the gamut of concerns. And the doctors and the folks at the hospital where we did the transplant were really remarkable in helping both of us kind of understand what it looked like, what the risks were, what the benefits to Dan were, and just really kind of, for lack of a better term, really held our hand through the process, and just were very encouraging, and it just has been remarkable. And the questions I've gotten from other folks have been really interesting too, but it's just been an education process. So it's been really wonderful to be able to go out and speak and advocate for this and really clear up a lot of, I think, still existing misconceptions about what life looks like for me as a kidney donor, and what they could look like for you. So I would say there wasn't really a time that it was necessarily hard or scary for me through the process. Of course, you have a little bit of anxiety. I'm not a huge needles person, and you get to draw a whole heck of a lot of blood. So that was probably my least favorite. Really, I was so excited about it that I was ready to do it. Of course, you're a little nervous leading up to it, but I just, what really helped get me through it is just knowing how impactful it would be, and that you really can fundamentally, I mean, just really save someone's life through doing that. So absolutely, no regrets. It was well worth any anxiety I had about it. But I will say that moment when you get the call that you are a match and they're ready to schedule you for surgery is a crazy one. So that was probably the moment that it became super real for me, definitely, but not scary. Great. So as I was being rolled into the operating room, honestly, I was pumped. I was high-fiving the doctors. I was high-fiving my recipient. It was just such an overwhelmingly positive experience for me. And I had all, my friends and family around, my recipients' friends and family around. The hospital staff was just incredible. It went so smoothly, and there was not a bit of nerves about me. I would say if there were, I was just nervous that my kidney would perform well, that the operation obviously would be successful, and that it would be a positive transplant for Dan. That was probably my biggest concern. But I just knew that I was in great hands, and really, it was a God thing for me. I knew that he was in control, and it was going to work out according to his plan. So I was super excited on the day of the surgery. So the best moment for me after surgery, probably there were a couple of best moments after surgery. Obviously, hearing that the transplant went well and that it was already producing, and Dan, that was just incredible. Getting to see Dan when he walked down to my room right after was really, really cool. Hearing the next day what an impact it had already had on his numbers, that the kidney was already performing, that his creatinine level was lower, kidney function was better. I mean, there's nothing better than that. And then I did finally, when I was being wheeled out of the hospital on day 2, I guess it was, getting ready to go home, I got to meet my recipient's mom. And holy cow, what an emotional experience. So just really moving and remarkable, and like the first time I cried in the whole whole process for sure, but just wonderful. So my recovery time was actually pretty good. So I was home over the Christmas holiday. I went home 2 days later from the surgery, and then really just rested for the rest of the year. I went back to work about, I guess, 10 days later or so, right after the first of the year. And I was a little tired. I think that was the biggest thing, tired and a little more dehydrated, I would say, than I would normally get. But my comfort level was fine. I did have kind of a quirky reaction to the surgical glue. It turns out I'm allergic to surgical glue, which I didn't know until after surgery. So I developed kind of a full body rash about 5 or 6 days later, which was probably really the biggest challenge of anything. Everything else was fine. The incisional pain was pretty minimal. Went home with some pretty hefty painkillers and really only needed them for a few days after that, and was back at it. So, I went at 6 weeks. I got back into running and working out and kind of resumed all normal activity, and it's been great ever since. So, what I learned about myself and others throughout the process is really just people are incredible, not myself, but everybody who was involved in the entire process, and particularly people like Dan, who really, through no fault of their own, are in this position where they have to rely on somebody being willing to give them an organ, which is kind of an incredible thing. And just the science around it is so fascinating, and just it's remarkable how good people are. So, this definitely was an affirming, I guess, process for that. People are so good and so helpful, and they're everywhere. I've met this wonderful community of people who are also living donors, and their stories are just amazing. And every time I meet one of them, it's so moving and inspiring, and it's been a wonderful community to be a part of. So after donating kidney, my health and life really has gone back to completely normal. Like I said, I was running at the 6 week mark, and I don't really feel tired anymore. I'm at about 6 months out. So I was a little bit fatigued for a couple of months, just in running and things like that. That has mostly gone away. My reaction to the surgical glue went away in pretty quick order, and really everything is the same, but cooler, way cooler, because I have this experience of giving someone a kidney, and Dan is now a part of my life, and we get to talk about it and advocate for other folks to give kidneys. And I've just, my life is so much richer now for being a part of this really great community. So I knew going in, obviously, Dan is going to be getting a kidney. So that's going to be something great for him. What I really didn't expect was how just personally fulfilling and just, I mean, that's just the most moving. It's funny. I didn't really cry about it at all. I'm not that emotional of a person. Didn't really get that emotional through the whole surgery. And now that we're on the other side and we can talk about how well Dan is doing and everything worked out. We just get to talk about kidney donation all the time. It's just, it's so moving. Like I'm crying about it all the time. I didn't expect how emotional and just like, holy cow, I feel like I got more out of it than Dan, and Dan got me kidney. So I do wish I could do it again because it just was such an exceptionally wonderful part of my life. And really the only thing I regret is really nothing. I guess maybe that I didn't reach out sooner. But and perhaps maybe I would have documented a little bit more of the process. Ours went on for about 6 months or so during the testing and scheduling of surgery. So it just really has been a phenomenal experience. So looking back, the best part about donating a kidney is like giving someone a kidney and getting to see how well they're doing and see Dan come off of a renal diet that he had been on for several years. And, he and his wife are traveling the world and having all these great experiences and, getting to live a normal life, which everyone should have. So it's just been an exceptionally cool part of the entire journey, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be a part of it. I would say the best advice that I would give someone who's thinking about becoming a living donor, well, first I would say it was just such a wonderful experience, but, really think it through. It is a surgery that's going to change perhaps the rest of your life. I don't want to just tell everyone to do it blindly because I recognize that it is a significant surgery. But gosh, just talk to people. I would talk to recipients. I would talk to donors. There's a really great living kidney donor network out there. There's a social media component of it, Facebook, whatnot. And really, we're all there just to answer questions and walk people through it. And really, it's just such a cool, tight-knit community to be a part of. And I would encourage you, if you have questions, to reach out. There are some mentoring programs that I've been involved in that you get to sit down and talk to folks who are getting ready to go in for that surgery about what your experience was like. And so many resources there. So I would encourage you to chat with other people, watch these kind of videos, and really just hear what the experience is like so that you're kind of fully informed before you go in. But absolutely, you should do it.